Call to order the meeting of the JMRL Board of Trustees at 3:07.
I'll read this. I move that Brandy Polanski's request to attend today's meeting of the JMRL Board remotely due to personal matters, specifically work obligations, be approved.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're in, Brandy.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, you want to,
Sure, yeah, I just wanted to give the floor for a moment to Catherine Fay, who's the branch manager of the Crosday Library and is a different branch manager from the last time you were here. So if you haven't met Catherine yet, you might recall her from such jobs as the head of reference for JMRL before this position. So Catherine, thanks for having us today.
Thank you all for coming all this way. I'm really thrilled to have you here. And if you have time at the end of the meeting, I know most of you probably already had the tour. And it was possibly last year I got to go on top of the roof. Recommend check in with me. I'd love to take you on a tour. We have the fireplace going. It's very cozy over there. And you can hang out in rocking chairs and look at the mountains. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. Thanks so much.
thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Okay. We'll have the disposition of the minutes. Do everybody got a chance to read them? Any changes? Okay. If not, I'll take a motion to accept them.
I'll move that we accept the minutes.
From the previous meeting. Okay. Oh, somebody banging down on it.
The vote on them?
Yes, we, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The nays have the same. What it looks like everybody voted yes. Okay, so go ahead. We have accepted those minutes. Announcements or public comments?
I have one announcement.
Okay.
The state library has put together a new Friends of the Library handbook, similar to the trustee handbook for governing boards, which has been very useful for myself and for other trustees. I think you get a physical copy when you join the library board. Now they have one for Friends boards too. So I know we've got former JMRL Friends board members in the room here. They only gave me 2 copies. One goes to the Friends president, the other will stay in my office. If you'd like to see the physical copy, let me know and I'll make arrangements. Otherwise, it is available online on the state library.
Okay, thank you. No other public comments?
It's just one attendee remotely. Sarah, if you'd like to make public comment, please use the Zoom raise hand function now. Looks like no public comments.
Okay. Continuing education.
Okay, that is me this month,
Mhm.
and this is a little bit of a working session, and not just a straight continuing ed, where I tell you all about something that's happening at JMRL. In discussions recently, the policy committee, I think, was talking about the employee handbook, and there have been a few changes since the last time the board heard about them. And the goal had been to have the board on an annual basis hear about changes to the employee handbook. So ideally, what I would like to see is some review and discussion of the changes that have made since the last time this was reviewed, which was July of 23, and then a motion if the board so wishes to endorse the contents of the handbook. So I'm going to take it for granted that you all have read the handbook as is. You knew what it was like as of July of 2023 and just focus on what has changed since then. And I made you a cheat sheet in the handouts here. Starting on page a little strange here. And we will go through and look at the changes. So a lot of them were cosmetic things, like the image had to be replaced. It had, I think, the wrong color logo or the wrong place. So I'll kind of breeze through some that were just kind of links needed to change. The city of Charlottesville put out a new version of their personnel and policies manual a year or so ago. And so everything that was pointing to that had to be updated. And kind of focus on the substantial changes there. So we had to repaginate, the table of contents had to be changed because there were all new page numbers with some additions there. Hopefully that's still good. And links to various updated, as I mentioned, links to things that changed, those got updated throughout. There's some minor copy editing, such as changing, if you aren't sure if the incident warrants a report, go ahead and do it anyway. Never hurts to have documentation, which I think was a tone thing. At some point, we changed that to, if you aren't sure if the incident warrants a report, go ahead and do it anyway. It never hurts to have documentation. So I'm not going to call out necessarily every one of those small tweaks unless you really want them to. So links changing. In the first section, which is just welcome about this handbook, about JMRL, the customer service statement, JMRL's mission and values. Chart link change, training manual, links changed. Links. I think the first substantial change is the addition. So this is the thing, but actually the addition, it's showing the difference. There's a line in the board committee's policy that is going to be read for the second reading today that stated JMRL and the library board support the creation and maintenance of a staff association when organized by employees. The policy committee felt that that didn't belong in the board committee's policy, so we're looking for a home for it. So this is the home for it. We want staff to make sure they understand that the board does support that. So if the board endorses this handbook today, they are thereby endorsing that the library board and JMRL support the creation and maintenance of a staff association.
Why does that look like it's redlined out?
Yeah, because this is a Google function that compares two versions of something, and it basically does it in reverse. So all of them are going to be the redlined out things are the additions.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. The actual handbook as is now has that in there. This is a separate version that's only here to show you these comments and say, okay. Under closings is our next change. Not subtraction. All right, sounds good. But reworded this section. Staff had previously scheduled time off for comp time and their location closes due to an emergency for had scheduled time off or comp time, and the location closes due to an emergency or weather event. Then they will only need to use the time off or comp time for the missed hours in which all staff were required to be in the building. So this is a change we made a year ago. Administratively. So for example, if you're required to be off from 10 to 2 today using sick leave, but then your branch was only open from 1 to 5 because of snow, your manager or JMRL admin should cancel your entered sick leave and enter an approved sick leave only for the hour in which you would have been there during the time in which the branch was open.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a change in previous procedure. The library used to, regardless of whether or not the library is open, if you requested leave, you were responsible for using all of it. This was just a minor tweak.
Except when it came on your paycheck.
Yeah. Well, it was never leave without pay. It was always using
Okay.
using sick or vacation time. Okay, more links changing. Here's the never change to it never hurts to have documentation. These emergency evacuation routes used to be a link to a separate document that had them there. Now these are all listed out. Each branch's emergency evacuation plan is live linked here so that staff can jump on that and see their immediate needs there. Next up is under pay periods, pay scales, progression through the pay scale. This section right here. Added some clarification on eligibility for raises for staff that have transferred into a new position within JMRL. So that was here. Employees need to be at least halfway through their probationary period at JMRL in order to be eligible for a raise. That means they need to have started work in their job title for the next fiscal year on or before May 31st of a given year to be eligible for a raise in July. So this came up, we had a couple situations where folks changed jobs and it wasn't clear that at that point they were starting a new position and they weren't getting a raise for the previous position. They were in a new job. So it was an attempt to clarify that language. Under the Family Medical Leave Act section. Just jumping to the changes. So everything else, let's see. Stop. We added the line FMLA would be handled administratively by the city of Charlottesville and tracked locally by JMRL. So the city of Charlottesville HR department will take in the medical documentation for an employee that's seeking FMLA leave, and they will do the granting of the leave, but then JMRL tracks our own leave. We don't use the city of Charlottesville's leave system, so we're responsible for tracking what is federally protected leave if there's an FMLA case. Under paid parental leave. Skip it.
Right under the cursor.
Oh, thank you. Change it from pregnant employees should also file for FMLA to expecting employees, which can cover up to 12 weeks. This leave will be handled administratively by JMRL as well. So that's a 2-week, 2-week paid parental leave. That's an option that JMRL tracks. Okay. Change the title of attendance and punctuality to attendance, punctuality, and productivity. And added a bullet saying, while on work time, staff should be engaged in library-related tasks. If a task is unclear, reach out to a supervisor for guidance. Which probably goes without saying, but sometimes it's good to have it in writing. The next major change was under the ethics section. Because when JMRL's policy committee and board voted on a new JMRL policy for ethics, they had to change some information, or we changed some information that was pointing back to some city code of ethics that no longer exists, basically. So in that section, we took everything that's in the current city's personnel policies and laid them out here. This is word for word from the city of Charlottesville's personnel meeting. So we added, they're bound by the guidance on ethics in the city's personnel policies. Detailed guidance includes the tenants and employees should build trust through honesty and transparency, seek no personal gain, treat everyone fairly, build the community through good stewardship. In order to meet those tenant staff should refrain from conduct in a manner or context that reflects poorly on JMRL or non-library matters, and shall refrain from representing JMRL in any way that brings discredit to the library. JMRL employees shall not conduct themselves in an unlawful or acrimonious or disrespectful or unprofessional manner. Service employees should make any conduct that might undermine shall avoid any conduct might undermine the public trust by making an objective, fair, and impartial decision.
I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah.
This, if you scroll back up to where the start of this section. Okay, so again, all the red line stuff has been added.
Correct.
What, remind me, in the library employees code of ethics.
Nope.
No longer.
No longer.
Yeah, what is the relation to this section from that policy?
Yeah, you'll have to put on your cat.
Yeah, right.
Because there was a line in the ethics policy that JMRL had that said JMRL's employees are bound by this. It was based on the city of Charlottesville's code of ethics or whatnot. And when we went looking for that, it was gone. It doesn't exist.
So what did remind me what the policy committee did at that time? Did we strike
Yeah.
reference to the Charlottesville?
Let's see. Yeah, I think we removed it, and it's based on the ALA statement on professional ethics.
Oh, it would have been on the top. No, it's right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not recalling the change you made, but in terms of current status, now there is some guidance in the personnel, study
Yeah.
Charlotte's personnel policy, so that sentence is valid right now.
Yeah.
Okay, now back to the employee handbook, please. So the right, kind of where your cursor is, underneath that, staff should, and then it says. It says JMRL. So are you saying we copied this from the city of Charlottesville personnel policies and those include specific references?
No, I think we adapted it
Okay.
from the city of Charlottesville.
Okay. Got it. So it might, so something like this is in city of Charlottesville personnel policies, but it just says
It
employees.
says city or.
Yeah, okay, got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the goal at the time, we had lost an anchor there.
Yeah.
For those policies, so we point back to it, and these are the exact. This is more for staff to know, like, well, exactly what does that say
Understood.
in the city?
Yeah, but I think I heard you say something like we copied it exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
And I didn't understand
Yeah,
what,
you're right.
if there were JMRL references.
This was distilled in some way or another. I think this was done a year and a half ago, so I don't, whenever the policy committee looked at. The code of ethics.
Right.
Which has been a while, so I don't remember exactly the tenets of it, but the idea was to kind of. Make what's in the city's personnel manual applicable to libraries.
Right, and I think that result is good. I was just wanting to understand the paper trail
Okay.
of references in my own mind.
And then there's a link there to the city standards on improper use of official positions that JMRL employees will be held to. And then JMRL employees who witness a breach of ethics should report those directly to the library director. Any breach of the city's personnel policies or JMRL's handbook may invoke the disciplinary measures covered in section 5 here. If an employee believes that the library director has violated JMRL's ethics, this may be reported directly to the library board president. Okay.
It doesn't say if the library board president is violated, what it. But I guess it's.
I guess we're in trouble at that point. No, I think at that point that it probably would come to me if both myself and the library board.
Yes, sir.
president. Yeah, then I think our local jurisdictions would.
Yeah, they get involved.
Any other questions about that section? That is the major change from.
Now that we have ethics.
Conflicts of interest, if the tips. Links were renamed and pointed to the appropriate sections in the city and JMRL policy. A bullet point was added stating there's a state law that all JMRL employees must adhere to as well. At the bottom here. Under the physical conduct section,
And does that link you to the state?
yes.
That links you to the, okay.
What was the one that didn't work?
Yeah, the ethics.
I won't make you watch me make that change now. Here's the Conflict of Interest Act.
Do we require JMRL employees to sign I have no conflicts of interest?
We require them to sign that they have read and received this handbook. That's the closest.
I was just thinking UVA used to make us sign I have no conflicts of interest every year, or at least make me sign it. I don't know about everybody else.
Some boards.
I haven't signed such a thing, I don't think.
Maybe because I had procurement authority, I guess.
Maybe.
Mhm.
We're more likely to be bribed.
Okay, under conduct with minors, we added a procedure to this. There's a safe child policy that the board passed recently, and staff worked on a procedure for that too. Some of the stuff that was in the policy moved over to the procedure. So we added a link to that directly for staff. Under physical conduct, broaden the scope to include library staff. Contact, thank you. Previously, it had just been, there should never be any physical contact between staff and any library patron, added or library staff. And changed it to unless that person is a threat to themselves or others. Just removed it to talk about just patrons to basically say anybody who's in the library. And finally, under to do before leaving, I think makes sense would be at the end. To do before leaving. Added a clarification that the JMRL form holds the library board, director, and staff harmless for any released information. This is staff who wish the library to serve as a reference for them in the future, sign off on a waiver that says that they understand that the board or the director or staff are not responsible for any.
I just wanted to ask a really picky question about that touching rule that we just looked at. Like, does that like allow for like a handshake?
I think it mentions consent.
Okay.
The only time
I
staff should
see.
ever touch anyone at work, that is the only time they should touch anyone at work without prior consent. So the understanding is that, if you offer a hand and somebody.
Sure. Okay.
Because I gave Amy a hug.
Hopefully you're not an employee.
It is, and I'm a patron.
Okay, and then finally added a link to the newly created exit interview request form, which is just something that had not existed when the first version of this handbook went live. Those are all the things that have changed since July of 2023. Are there any questions about those changes or about the handbook in general?
Was it June or July?
July.
Because you got June on this piece of.
Well, I have a question about that if you go to the very first page. Because my question is, what year was it? You go to the bottom, the last time, it says there, the last time we endorsed was October 2021, and that is the only time I recall doing this. And I think this is a really good exercise for reasons that don't get me started. And I would suggest that we add it to our annual calendar. We pick a month with the president, and it doesn't have to be a long exercise, but I think it's good for us to understand the framework that David has put in place to achieve the results that we are ultimately responsible for.
Did we do something like that to say that we're like?
I think we did in 2021 when this was new. I think we did a review in either June or July of 23. I went back through the minutes to see, so I can't remember now. If it says June on there, it's probably June. But there was no endorsement of that.
Okay, so you think, so I don't recall the review, but I'm very willing to believe that it happened. So you think that happened in 23, but we
Yeah.
just didn't do an endorsement?
Yeah, we had something similar to this where I said, here's everything that's changed, but there was no endorsement. But I agree with you. I think that it's a good idea to do this annual, and I also think it's a good idea for the board to endorse it so that the staff knows that the contents of it are not just me.
I'm prepared to endorse it today after discussion, but I think it's all good.
Do you feel that we need to endorse it every year or?
I think whatever changed, the part of the purpose of endorsing it is to give, in my opinion, is to give additional teeth to the director. Hey, not only did I make this stuff up, but the board endorsed it, and it has the weight of whatever decision they're gonna, follow up with. So if something changed in between, it wouldn't have, there's some argument that change hasn't been endorsed yet, so.
But if it hasn't, you'd have to review it yearly probably to see whether or not there's been any changes or
There
to.
might be some years where there were no
But-
changes.
And so
But that could be a review, and then there's no need to endorse. it.
Endorse,
Changes, but-
right. Okay.
Do you present these changes at the annual?
I have not
meeting with
presented
the-
these. No, when it's substantial enough.
The annual training.
No, I do not generally do that. Generally, if it's substantial enough that it impacts staff, I'll email everybody. Like the snow closing one, that was a big change that the managers had to talk about because it changed how they were handling snow days.
Yeah.
So I sent a communication to all staff saying it's been updated. That's a good idea, though.
It is, but if you're gonna have everybody together, that this would be something as an employee I would expect to see this.
We need a
So I
motion.
think we should review.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah, I kind of like July or, in
Yeah.
the beginning of the year.
Any other questions? Okay, do I get a motion for?
So I move that the JMRL board
Can I
endorses.
wait before you do this?
Yep.
Are we endorsing the changes because I haven't looked at the whole,
We,
I don't want to
my
endorse
thought
the
would be
whole
to
thing.
re-endorse the handbook as amended. So if we want to do that next month.
I think we should do it another time when we have a warning to
Yeah.
take a look at the whole thing. 'Cause
Okay.
I've never looked at the older So I know what the changes are, but I don't.
I like that from a public notice standpoint as well. Now, everyone knows.
Yeah.
where
It's next month sometime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put on
I'll
a
put on future, yeah. Okay, future items.
And I haven't checked the website. Is this, it's public?
No, this
It's
is
on
the
the
staff
internet.
document, it's a procedure, yeah, it's on the staff. It's public in the sense that it's foreseeable and anybody can have access to it. And in fact, the link to it is public because we share it with new staff before they have JMRL credentials. You know, if you're onboarding.
If
at
you're given
JMRL,
the link, you could review
yeah,
it.
you can see it.
Okay.
Some of the links within. So internal though, so it's more useful. for Staff than for the public.
So can you send us a link to whichever version we should review
Sure,
next month?
it's the one that's on the file. But I'll. And potentially print it in your handouts for next.
You thought this was thick. Okay, so we'll move on to committee appointments and report. The budget committee budget, the budget committee report.
The budget committee met after. And reviewed the two proposals that we had shown in board meeting, which was basically the chief tenet of all of them was to up the pay scale for the entire JMRL staff by 5% and then giving everybody a 2% raise. And that was the basic tenet. Then there were some additional pieces that we reviewed over expanding the bookmobile green, the added hours at north side, not added, no.
Staff hours.
Staff hours, yeah, thank you. And several other things. The difference between the two proposals, if you recall, was one was 9.2%. The other was something in the range, a little, but we're talking 5 figures over an overall budget, more than that. The budget committee felt that we should ask for what the personnel committee recommended and what the board had endorsed at our last meeting, which was the higher of the two. So a 9.2% overall increase for across jurisdictions. Now, some of those proposals included extra costs for each jurisdiction, for instance, for giving postal services to green, there will be a cost that will come from the green jurisdiction, but overall, 9.2%. Now, this is our usual, we don't know about health insurance problem. We've built in 15%. We built in a 15% increase in health insurance costs across the board. Not knowing if that will stand or whether it will be bludgeoned the way we were last year, so we have to allocate 30%. And whether that would be true, but what we'd like, the budget committee would like to propose is the higher of the two proposals, 9.2%, be taken as by David to the jurisdictions, and then we'll also have meetings with jurisdictions as necessary in their budget processes after the first of the year. What am I forgetting, David?
I'm gonna answer a question that Ann just asked. She's looking at page handouts, which is the third page of the budget. The health insurance cost, projected number that we use is 15% higher than last year, but this number says 17.3. It's because some of the personnel committee costs brought in new healthcare costs. So for every current employee, it's a 15% increase over what they had last year, but for new employees, those are all new costs.
Yes, other questions about the any individual line items or budgets, anything like that? Like Jerry and David for all the hard work they put into this and different proposals. And clearly they presented it to the budget committee, so even I could understand.
Yes, okay. You're finished, thank you. Old business. Do we don't,
There's a separate,
That would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
break between the two. You have a minute to process.
Okay, the second reading of the policy.
Okay, with three policies that we presented from the policy committee has recommended for adoption on application. We did the first reading of those last month. And the first of those is records retention and disposition. The overall approach here is there's a very detailed regulatory requirements for things that we retain and what the items are and what's the plan and so forth. Those regulatory environment is subject to change over time. And it's the director's job to keep up with the changes. And the overall approach here has been to move the detailed implementation details out of policy and move those into procedure that's under staff control or the director's control. So we're replacing all the crossed out details, which are the kind of the black crossouts that follow this red part. We're substituting instead just a quick overview of that we follow requirements and kind of cited what those are. A brief, just for the public and employees, just a very brief overview of what the kind of the scope that you could expect of what sorts of things are generally being retained and what sorts of timeframes are involved. And then a mention of who's in charge if you have questions. So this just gives us flexibility to keep up with changing requirements while also, just providing kind of an anchor place and an overview.
I'll just add, the board asked last month that procedure, if they're gonna vote today and make this an official board policy, that procedure be updated by now, and it is updated, so it includes the old language mostly from the procedure, and then all of the policy information has been reviewed by the schedules that the state library used and updated where needed. There were quite a few things that needed to be updated, but that project is done, so the procedure is now up to date with here's how long to keep this, here's how long to keep that, and managers have reviewed it.
Great. And then along those lines, sometimes we link in the public facing policy to various procedures, a few procedures, I would say. Are you recommending this would be one of those or not? That important to do?
Do you mean like have a link here, or we actually have it on the main webpage where it's like here are the associated procedures? Because that's been relatively few. I know we did it for the collection management policy.
I think that's the one of the few I have in mind. So
Yeah.
are you? It looks like you have not suggested that we link to it in that same way.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, most of them are pulling from 4 or 5 schedules from the state. Certainly good.
I'm happy with this, but just being clear about what the decision was.
Okay.
So that's the reading. If there's a motion to adopt, I guess.
I move that we adopt, what policy?
1.7.
1.7, records retention and disposition as amended.
All in favor?
I,
Okay. That's everybody.
The next one in the handouts is JMRL makerspaces. This is the new policy, which sort of fell out of our rework of the Monticello Avenue policy. And Monticello Avenue had sort of morphed into 2 separate services or brands. One of those is being deprecated, and the other is this sort of we identified in the policy committee. We just wanted a overall statement of what these makerspaces are and why do we have them, and how are they funded. And that's generally what this is. It just describes, again, it's intended to be as broad as possible, just to give the public and other stakeholders an idea of what's happening with makerspaces while leaving the implementation details, flexible for staff to tweak specific policies or offerings at various branches.
Just basically a statement of the focus of this makerspace.
Yeah, it's what is the offering? I mean, we have these, and so people might the committee felt it was good to just have in writing somewhere, how does this fit with our mission to offer these kind of services? And what's the scope and what can you expect? You're interacting with a makerspace.
Mhm. Okay. So do we need a vote on that one, T? Buddy?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I move to accept policy section 4.6 JMRL makerspaces as.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Guess I'm gonna first.
One,
JMR, board committees.
Committees.
Okay, oh, that's good. Okay, so this again of second reading today. We just came out of some discussions in so this one, the other two were, well, one of them was new, just fell out of. Revenue retention was regularly scheduled. This one more some discussions in the technology committee about, hey, what is our scope as a development committee, and we pointed back to, well, it's written down somewhere, and technology committee wanted to make some changes to clarify what that scope was. So while doing that, so they basically requested the policy committee, hey, can you kind of work this through? Today is the culminating moment of that process. At the same time, while we had this open, we reviewed the other standing committees that are mentioned in this document, which were the policy committee. There's a few wording tweaks. In strategic plan committee, there were no tweaks, but we also recognized and wanted to clarify, okay, these are three that for whatever reason are mentioned in this pre-existing policy, but we have other ongoing committees, which within the bylaws are referenced as special committees. So we're just kind of updating this language to say, hey, there could be other special committees as allowed for in the bylaws, and we're just bringing that all that language into one together with the bylaws.
Okay. Oh, I guess we'll vote on 1.23. Do I have a motion?
I will do that. JMRL policy, section 1.23, JMRL, board committees as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, I guess we're back to discussion and potential vote. The fiscal year 27 proposed budget. Yes.
We thank the committee for working on this document. I think quite a few of you have been through with that process. I'm happy to answer any questions about the budget that's put together, or to go through any particular sections. However, the board pleases here. As Tony said, the big factor that the board controls is the level of commitment to raising salary scale and employee comp, and this budget reflects the same move that happened this current year going into fiscal year 26. That's the major factor. There are some smaller, as Tony mentioned, including the bookmobile service in Greene County, which we've talked to Greene County about in the past. And the only other new position that's in there is a support position for our digital services coordinator, specialist position that would do data entry type work for our website. And then the more hours for stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, the other creation of the meetings. All four service desks, Swiss Army knife. Jack of all trades.
Mhm.
Anything when we adopt this, it's still contingent on this council.
Right.
Yeah, I think that
I mean,
last
we're
year.
adopting it. I don't know how you say that.
Last year, the board's motion, I should have looked that up, was something along the lines of, we adopt this budget as proposed and give Director Plunkett authority to adjusts based on healthcare information or something like that. And we probably will know that mid to late December. That seems to be the timing.
And we don't wait until then to adopt because the timing,
Jurisdictional partners have.
they need their lead time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our bylaws, I think it's the bylaws, actually say January 15th will deliver, it might be in the regional agreement. To our jurisdictional partners, but they send me deadlines earlier than that. In fact, one of them I already had to tell, you have to wait till Monday for the board to vote on it. Although this document's been on the handouts and has been publicly available, so it was in a newsletter, a local news newsletter last night.
Mhm.
It's my phone, so. Chance to see it.
Some great call outs on this first page
Yeah.
about increased participant and programs and checkouts and all that stuff.
Mike, one last thought. Also last year, we went back to the jurisdictional partners, the ones that we met with 4 or 5 after healthcare changed and said, would you prefer us to wait? And they all said, no, we want what you have, and then we'll adjust as needed.
Great, thanks.
And Meredith, in the past also, I will, after the board votes on the budget, whenever that is, I'll send this to our jurisdictional partners and also send them very specific, here's what changed for your library system, and I'll CC you all. So for the Charlottesville folks, I'll CC you all on that to the city. And sometimes I provide this level of information for them specifically
Some
too.
positive call outs.
Yeah, Albemarle asks for that sometimes. What are the numbers for just Albemarle service? And I give them.
I think that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially if you've seen some changes in services that they've paid for. So you're talking about the expanded bookmobile service. And the reason Nelson. Yeah.
Okay, so you want to try that,
The wording.
the wording for the motion? Anybody?
Make a motion that we adopt the proposed library operating budget for fiscal year 26-27 as presented by the budget committee of the library board.
With a caveat?
With the proviso, we do not have any final cost for health insurance, which may cause an amendment to the budget as we are.
I just want to be clear that do you want, if there's a change to healthcare, do you want this to come back to the library board?
So it-
Authorizing if it's dramatic and it's going to cause complications, then the budget committee will have to
The
reconvene.
budget committee will review it, and if the budget committee feels that it's necessary to bring it to the board stage,
Then we do so.
yeah. That.
Can we get that motion?
Okay.
Yes, let's try it.
We
Let's
do
try
it.
it
Let's
again.
try it.
Caveat that says authorizing the library director to adjust healthcare figures as new information becomes available.
Right. Thank you. What he said.
Thank you, Meredith, for stepping in and taking notes today. I see her doing it. She's got a beautiful baby. Would you like to read us back the motion?
I'm going to move to adopt the proposed operating budget as presented to the library board, giving Director Plunkett authority to adjust. And that's what.
Healthcare costs as new information.
Thank you.
Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Who would like to?
No, he made the motion. He made.
I'll second.
All, gonna really, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so done. We did all 3 of those. Library director's report.
Okay, there's a few things of note for the board. Every branch is handing out these booklets that we got from the state library of the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution with Library of Virginia resources while supplies last. We just got these last month from the Library of Virginia, and it's just like first person, not first person. Documents, original documents that they have available at the Library of Virginia, and they're free. Pick them up. They might be close to gone. This is the first of several events and partnerships planned around the upcoming 250th, the VA 250, including JMRL hosting the Give Me Liberty, Virginia and the Forging of a Nation display from the Virginia Museum of History and Culture at Northside in January. And we're working with the Charlottesville Albemarle VA 250 committee to promote the Kids National America's Field Trip Essay Contest running through March. The prompt for that essay or art contest is, what does America mean to you? And the prizes are 125 trips to national landmarks as a potential prize for kids up through teen years. So more information about that to come.
125.
Yes, not for one
Not
person.
together.
to go.
125 kids.
5 individual
As a parent,
trips.
if it was
to a national
125 trips, I would let my kid.
Thank you
Don't
for
enter.
clarification. I just want to bring something to the board's attention that has been an ongoing issue for staff to deal with that has maybe not percolated to your level, and there's no action required at this time. But I wanted you to know that JMRL is continuing to have some difficulty navigating emergency notifications in a shared city, county, university environment around town. So I want to bring this to your attention because it involves emergency closings of the library, which of course the library director is authorized to do. I don't always notify you if there's an emergency closing, like sometimes if there's a water outage at a branch or whatnot, we have to close for a few hours. I might let you know, I might not. But in this particular instance, the week before last, the University of Virginia issued a run, hide, fight alert centered around the Shannon Library, which is only a couple of blocks away from our Gordon Avenue Library. So JMRL engaged our emergency procedures, which included locking the doors to public access during that time, while allowing patrons to leave of their own volition. We're not putting anybody inside a building. This ended up resolving this particular instance within a few hours, but this is the third such call in the last year or so, where a lot of staff have signed up for notifications from the university's authorities, and they get texts saying run, hide, fight. It's not necessarily clear who it's directed to or where the geographic area is. In this case, it was very close to Gordon Avenue. It has been difficult to navigate as the university edict is not binding and nothing was sent out by the city. When we've had issues in other jurisdictions, there'll be a reverse 911 call that comes to anybody affected that says shelter in place. You know, the phones will all start ringing and staff will pick them up and there'll be a robocall saying this is from the Nelson County Sheriff's Office or whatever it might be. In this case, nothing went out for the city. In fact, while the university buses ceased running, I believe the city trolley kept running through the area at that time. So there's kind of mixed messaging and staff are not sure how to handle it. I'm just telling you because my instinct has been to shut down if there is the potential of an emergency situation, even if it's a boy who cried wolf type scenario. I'm letting you all know that I'm going to continue to err on the side of safety for staff and patrons, even if the messaging is mixed, and even if that means a potential temporary loss of service. So I wanted you all to be aware, and this has happened a few times, specifically at Gordon Avenue. You'll see on our webpage, it'll be Gordon Avenue is closed. Gordon Avenue is shut for public service. You know, it's an unusual circumstance. I have not gotten great guidance about how to handle that from our church, well, not from any of the powers that be in those scenarios. And I know that the library is not the only one, despite my beliefs, it's not always all about the library, but anyway, I'm just putting it out there for you all to think about and whether or not, you know, if there were actions that we needed to take or talk about, I'm willing to do that. But for now, it's been my judgment that we will obey those if we get a run, hide, fight message in the community, wherever it is, we're gonna listen.
Has Charlottesville talked about that fence?
I have not had any communication.
Well, in that case, it was somebody hearing popping noises. And actually, apparently they were over on this complex.
So not,
Then the person came from the Shannon Library, it's all very unclear.
especially in that case, because it involved like the reports that were coming in where there was a shots heard or something
Yeah.
like that, and it was at a library, so who knows what motivations were. I think that was a pretty easy call.
Yeah,
It is very disconcerting for staff to be getting.
it was very confusing
Yeah.
for everybody. But it took a very long time because they had to search every floor of Shannon, which is big library.
And I don't think the library board can, you know, we were not making edicts about what the community safety should do. We can only worry about what our libraries are gonna do.
Right. But I'm just curious whether Charlottesville City had any kind of thoughts about that, but they're not taking the UVA alert and.
I have also communicated with them when it came to when was this, a few months ago, maybe a year ago, there was someone with a gun by the 250 bypass in city limits, but very close to the North Side Library, only a few blocks up that way. And at that time, the city issued a reverse 911 call. I think I'm getting this correctly, but the county did not. So it's just confusing when you're in an area that has three separate messaging systems.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that for now, if any of the three triggers, we're gonna follow it
If
until we
it's
get
close to the library,
different information.
I know,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
erring on the side of caution. Always.
I think Nelson had an incident where they had I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know where, and it was at the high school where, and they were sheltered in place, and I don't know whether or not anything went out to the library, which was, fairly
That
close.
has happened in the past too, where a school district has had some sort of shelter in place. And I've made judgment calls on those. That's not a blanket, we're gonna close, it depends on where that geographically is.
Right.
And what the emergency is.
So it sounds like you're navigating a fragmented information environment and doing the best. Are you satisfied with once you've figured out or made your assessment, are you satisfied with your infrastructure to communicate back to the staff, which is geographically dispersed? Is that happening on Google Chat, or is it a text chain, or have you? If something would be useful, and I'd be happy to support some kind of infrastructure that would be tailored to this sort of emergency situation, if you think we needed to.
Yeah, the communication with all staff is generally via email. The communication with the impacted staff is generally phone or chat, or even text to my cell phone to the manager in charge at the time.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
That doesn't stand, what I hear that from that is it doesn't stand out quickly, like, hey, I can hit one button and get all central staff or all Gordon staff.
Yeah, I mean, it takes writing an email, basically.
Just something to maybe.
The things that I hear about, Mike, that are on that line are more like in-building communication systems. So for our larger branch, like Northside, they've been asking for a while for some sort of intercomming system or something like that. Which we don't have in place there. There's nothing at Central that's like that. So it's not the tell everybody, it's the tell everybody in this location.
Right, yeah, it would have to be hierarchical in some way. In the old days, it would be like a pager network. But now everybody has a phone, so maybe it seems to me there would be a use case somewhere for a hierarchical overlay that people would have on their phones, and you'd be able to navigate from there.
We've looked at some things like that. It's also a fine line about whether or not, staff are going to be willing to put work-related things on their personal phones.
Well, they could carry a pager, that's the. Sorry, go ahead.
Bullhorns at every location.
Yeah. All right, just a thought.
At any rate, maybe this is something worth talking about in more depth later on, but it's something that has happened a few times that is kind of a big deal that maybe the board wasn't aware of. How these things are impacting library services.
Now, with something where you'd be sending out that information, would that impact the budget? Like if they had to put something in place to notify everybody,
That's a good question. I think it depends on what it is, if it's equipment, if it's like an intercom system in the library, it's probably the equipment budget that we'll talk about in the spring. If it's something software based or app based, then it's probably something that would go in this operational budget. I don't know what that would.
Yeah.
I know those tools are out there though. Okay, on to.
Thank you, David, for taking care of these emergencies.
I've got other things to report that are not as depressing. There is a winter book drive running right now. I would highlight the Cans for Fines program too, but it ends tomorrow. So we've got some expired, not expired, and you can bring them into the library today or tomorrow. Winter Book Drive is running through December 1st, collecting children's books to benefit preschools, Head Start programs, and UVA's chapters of remote area medical. Talk to your local branch for more information about that. Different branches have different organizations they're giving these books to, and they have different standards for how they're accepting them. And then also Jolynn Bullock, a longtime specialist at the Louisa Library, was recognized for her leadership with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library in Louisa last month at the Impact Luncheon sponsored by the Louisa Chamber of Commerce, covered with a story and photos in the Central Virginia, which was very nice. And similar vein, the Scottsville Library was named the Community Partner of the Year Award for the James River Boys and Girls Club. The invitation to the branch manager noted that your commitment has made a tangible difference in the lives of our kids. And then finally, JMRL Friends Board member Jane Kulo and I met last week with Fred Missel, the latest newly elected member of the Albemarle Board of Supervisors, to give him a tour of the Central Library, discuss JMRL services, and talk about the Central Library renovation project.
He receptive.
Yes, he was very excited about the project. His background is in major construction for the UVA Foundation, so he's got some direct experience on construction projects, which I'm very. So that's all I have to report.
Okay. Okay, other matters, anything else going on? Anybody? No? Okay, then future agenda items. We've got the potential endorsement for the changes of the handbook. Anything else?
Should be a policy committee meeting.
Yes, so there will be a report.
Traditionally, it's in the calendar that I'll present a mid-year report on the library director's goals. Be a budget update. There's a potential that with one or more jurisdictions by then, or know the healthcare number.
And we're in North Side.
And also, it is, if you recall, the week of Christmas, 12/22 is the date of your next meeting.
At Northside.
I North Side.
Moved to the week before.
No, we kind of did a reversal this year. It used to, traditionally, it was Christmas that was the week early, and Thanksgiving we did the week of, but. Here we are.
Well, I
Okay, and. Okay, is that it? Okay, well, I'll call for a motion to adjourn then. We're just gonna stay here. We're gonna stay here. Mike?
We all move that we agree.
I guess we do it. And it is 4:05.
Well.
Well, thank you for making the meeting longer than I could hear.
Bye.
Think about next month. That's fine. Thanks.
Say, Brandy, where are you located?
Huh?
You located?
I'm in my basement.